Ladies and gentlemen, as your planetary defense commander, I am going to do my best to be the greatest strategeriest you've ever known. But a warning comes with that, because who knows what I'm going to say. So this is like a high-level Asteroid Fight Club meeting. So if you can't handle it, you should leave now and go listen to stuff you can handle. Because I'm probably going to offend everybody because I just ran out of cigarettes. This dude, Brandon Daniels, was like, quit with the fear-mongering on my last hurricane season update, where I looked at 95E, which is the thing off of the Pacific coast that is a rain threat and hurricane threat to Mexico and Southwest America for the rain. And then we're watching the possible development in the Gulf. And then we're watching the hurricanes. And he was like, quit with the fear-mongering. And I was like, okay, you just walked into an Asteroid Fight Club meeting and said something very funny. Thank you for that, sir. I always appreciate anyone who can make me laugh. Like at the beginning of the video, if I'm like, hey, dude, it's Asteroid Fight Club meeting. Like if you didn't like it, that means, you're not necessarily in the club, I guess. And which part scared you the most about that hurricane peak season video, buddy? And did your mom give you permission to watch a peak hurricane season video? Because it's peak hurricane season in like 2 weeks for reals, September to October. And so we did like 10 years of ceremonies for 9/11 when 3,000 people died, and like 5,000 people died in Puerto Rico 2 years ago. So we're trying to avoid. It's better to keep people aware and prepared than have it come upon them like a surprise. Okay, but this is what San Diego looks like right now. So San Diego's got their shit together right now. And all the hackers be talking in code, so like some big ass shit is really going down. So Tyler's talking about bees in the hive. And I'm like, oh no, that is my weakness. World-class honeypots. I got a soft spot for them. Or a hard spot? Not again. And definitely, if they sent like 3 of the world-class honeypots at me, I don't know, man. I mean, I've tried to be stinky and chubby and don't brush my teeth much, but I don't know if those defenses would be deep enough. Back in May, there was a glimmer of hope for a big infrastructure deal. Now, you guys, like I said, I warned you it was an Astro Fight Club meeting, but I know there's one thing that makes Republican brains turn off and Democrat brains turn off and liberal brains turn off and conservative brains turn off is when I use the word infrastructure. Like real, like, okay, now we're going to pretend like we're in 7th grade again, and imagine you had to build a city. When I was growing up, we called it Sim City, where like you actually built a city and you ran a city and you tried to make everybody cool, like the greatest king of all time, make sure his kingdom and all his people have a good life. You do what you can to lead and guide and build cool things, And so like, that's what I've been saying, that I'm in my 40s, so we used to dream about these new cities of the future, but we're stuck in these like 1970, 1960 cities. When was the last time a new city was even built? And so like nobody even ever proposes the idea of like, hey, we need to build some new cities from scratch in safe places away from the coasts. I mean, I do it a lot. For years I've been saying that. Most of the time people are like, no. We got to stay trapped in these petrocentric things that are built and designed purposely to make you get stuck in traffic, wear and tear on your car, and burn a lot of gas. So, nobody wants to move to the future. They want to stick in the old shit, the old crappy infrastructure, right? And so Dems and Trump agreed on a $2 trillion deal. Now, here's the deal. Like, let me tell you, kids, this is a real meeting. And I would appreciate any contributions, donations, or letters sent to me because I'm dropping the hammer now. What's going to happen probably is the markets are going to crash. All right? And then, after the markets crash, the Federal Reserve is going to have to do quantitative easing again, where they print a bunch of money. We're talking trillions, bro. And it's not just us. All the central banks are doing like a currency depreciation ballet. Are you following me? Together. And so they got to keep it together. They don't want to have something called hyperinflation, which Jim Cramer was talking about. Booyah! Earlier. Maybe I'll get to the tweet. Was he talking about? Oh, yeah. So they're going to spend like $20 trillion, man. And back in 2007, when I was on top of my game before any of this shit was going down and most people weren't even paying any attention at all, I was totally deep into the financial quantitative easing shit because it scared the shit out of me, hyperinflation globally. And so when it all crashed, I remember reading the first Federal Reserve note. It was like one sentence. It's like, we can print as much money as we want. And the Fed is neutral. Okay, I'm not trying to like blame the Fed. We can print as much money as we want and nobody can ever look into our books. And then they rejected that, which was weird. It was a weird moment. But then they came back with like a 312-page document. I read that whole document, which was what led to the quantitative easing, TARP, I believe it was. TARP, the thing that kicked off everything. I read the whole thing. I got sick the next day. Anywho, so I knew they were going to spend a bunch of money. We're talking, they spent $16 trillion on the Federal Reserve on their balance sheet. I think they only have $4 trillion officially, but a lot was spent, and then it can be leveraged. And so what I'm saying was, at that time, I said what they need to do is take that money, divide it between every single American, which would have been about $55,000 per person. And then everybody gets $55,000, but if you have any debts, it runs through your college debts. If you have credit card debt, if you have home debt, car loan, any debt that you had outstanding, your $55,000 would pay off your debts first, and whatever you had left over would go to you. Now, that might cause a bit of a Dave Chappelle joke about, like, if you gave everybody a chunk of money, I believe his was for reparations, though. Like, I mean, it could cause a bit of a blip, or people like, I'm not going back to work, but I mean, that could be figured out. But what they just did was they gave the $16 trillion to the banks, the guys who literally caused the problem and the collapse of the financial system when 7 banks collapsed in the same day. It would be like having Wendy's, McDonald's, In-N-Out, Whataburger, Taco Bell, and A&W's all like run out of, like, go bankrupt in the same day. It just seems real suspect. And what was it talking about? Oh yeah. So yeah, they didn't give any of the money to us. They gave it all to the banks who caused the problem in the first place, who had spent a whole bunch of money. Because remember no-doc loans, where you, at some point there was a time, I don't think you or I got access to it, but like in the 80s and 90s, where you could just walk into a bank and say, hey, I want a loan for $300,000. And they'd say, okay, you don't even have to sign any documents. Take the money and go. We find out about that shit now. But remember, like, after 9/11 happened, we found out that a lot of people had used that information to the senators and congressmen to use it to buy stocks before the shit had happened. And it's like, that's real weird and creepy. And then they said, okay, we'll pass the law and we cover it up. I don't know if I put that properly. But the point was that I had a great idea that if they're going to spend that much money, that's how they should do it. And they're like, no, we'll give it to the banks. And so we gave them the banks for 10 years. And all that money got spent on like drones and top secret tech shit and all these, paradises above ground, on the ground, underground. And so like every 10 years, all the rich get a front run before the grand transition. All right. So then we've been kind of at that. Then it was Brexit. We're like, all right, you had the 10-year front run. Now what do we do? It's supposed to be everybody working together. Everybody wins. Team Earth. And so we're still kind of stuck in that zone of stuck in gear and neutral. Like, okay, what are we going to do now? And so at one point, when the markets crash, if we do avoid World War III with China and Russia, then they're going to have to print a bunch of money again. It's called compounding interest. You have a $260 global debt that's sitting there. And so that interest has to be paid. So they have to print more money, right? And so we're at that gap where, like, you can legalize marijuana. You can build these grand cities that are at one with nature. You can literally take a giant step into the future together and have a program called CCC that they used to have, where you just beautified and worked on your area, like the rivers, the lakes, the town, and you got paid. And so you never went homeless. You never had a place to live, food, and all. You had to do like basic work, but you kept up your whole area. Wonderful. They got rid of that right before World War II. And the thing about the CCC in the United States was they controlled all the mineral rights in America. So the Americans all shared the oil, the gold, everything, in essence, before they really started drilling, to the CCC. But when they got rid of the CCC, then that opened up the mineral rights to corporations. See how that worked? Americans got like stripped of their ownership of rights to minerals. so we could go fight Hitler. Okay, great. That was a big deal. But what I'm saying is we could do that again where in every nation where you could have like total nation strengthening because this money's going to pour out all over the world. And so we could be using the new techs, new designs, and doing what we can to all work together and build a better future where everybody's fed, everybody has a place to live, everybody has decent health care, and you still have your maximum abundance for, like, you wouldn't be taking away all the money and all the land from the super rich people. Like, they own like 90% of all the land. And so, like, technically at some point they'd have to give up like half of their land, but it wouldn't be like their choice shit. Just meaning that you have all this expansive land that nobody's using. And so it would be like a thing where, you know, they'd get 50% of the best property, but at some point, you know, the overabundance accumulation has bottlenecked with all resources. And so you just have to have a yin and yang flow between all the people, unless you have some crazy ass quick to population or slow to population profitability plan, which would never work. As we're talking about a lot. And so, yeah, we're going to have this next step where there's going to be a crash, but when they have the new, when they're going to print 20 to 30 trillion dollars, what are we going to do? What is the new plan going to be? And so we're kind of at a couple different stages with multiple groups, man. Like, it's a feudal system where it's like a top rich king, queen slash, and that rules everybody else. So it's like a big world, man, with a lot of people. So you have a lot of groups. It's a bunch of groups working together. No one has their hand on a button or a dial, or no one is running no one is fully in control of planet Earth. And no one is fully in control of like all the drugs. No one's fully in control of all the women. No one's fully in control of all the weapons. No one's fully in control of all the nukes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a system where you have to learn to work together, or becomes a just super shit show clusterfuck that falls apart. And so my whole point at THORnews has been, all right, let's take the step into the future of good abundance, where you give people the basics and you treat all life with quality. That's like people talking about gun control. Like, you got to end war, man. Like, as long as you're having spiritual warfare, mental warfare, physical warfare, emotional warfare everywhere, then people are just going to be dehumanizing and demonizing each other, and you're going to get shit like school shootings and just a bunch of crazy shit when people lose their mind and can't come up with the $25,000 they have to come up with every year, and then a bunch of horrible shit happens. Like, that you have to stop the top-down abuse of all people. It can be done. You know, you simplify everything. So it's what THORnews is about. It's why I've sacrificed everything, because it's like the grand transition, man. We are at the doorstep of the future, and we are the leaders. It doesn't matter if you're 18 to 88. You are here now in uncharted territory, and that we all have a say, and we all have energy, and we all matter, and we all will make a choice in this future of what we are going to do. And so, infrastructure, right? It's been a big point. Like, you could do all this wonderful stuff. We could go to the moon. We can live the future that has always been foreseen, at least by me, in 1,000 years of peace. And the thing that's kind of kicking off this whole conversation, other than me being out of cigarettes, is okay, so Texas, I got messages that Texas has just had a bunch of rolling blackouts because a power plant exploded. Remember, the power plant is insured, and the loss of outages probably caused rates to spike. So the corporations usually win. Anyway, over 330,000 customers are without power in the USA. 140,000 are out in Texas due to transmission power plant issue. 180,000 are out in the northern U.S. due to large weather system. Check for power outage. So, like, the power goes out in Texas. And, I've said before, A, because I'm here as a planetary defense commander. B, Texas is like ultimately the last bastion of hope and coolness if shit falls apart. At the end of the day, Texans are cool and we have our shit together mostly. Okay. And so I think most Texans know that. And so there's this under fire. And Texans are we love our home. We love Texas. And so in this whole thing, there are times where we may come under fire. And so I'm just saying, A, is this shit being blamed on me? B, is it a Texas bend the knee situation of like, Or is it just a schism within schism shit? What is up here? What is this? What is going on? Another point I've talked about at THORnews that was like 5 years ago. They said for $200 billion, they could replace the entire USA power grid and have it be like totally better than ever. But it always got voted down. It was like the stupidest shit ever, man. We spent $16 trillion on the war with Iraq and in Afghanistan. Like, it's the thing that I've been pointed, like, everybody else is trying to point you at a political party, at a political bullshit, when the basic thing staring us in the face is that, are we going to take a step forward into the future where we make 10-year plans as a nation, as a world, where we make 20-year plans, 100-year plans, 30-year plans to make things better? Or are we going to have the groups that are literally fighting to keep the old oil war, debt, deception, blame system, which worked and got us forward from 1900 to like now? And I would give all those people that got us, we always took small incremental steps forward. There were mistakes made, but we got here. Civilization is still standing. That's why I say I'm a great planetary defense commander. The fact that civilization is still here standing through all the shit we've been through, I've done a pretty good job. And you guys have done pretty great too. Okay, but we are definitely at these points where it's like I see all the guys who are like, hey, dude, I'm so cocky because like I'm crypto fucking rich now. I got to worry about shit. Well, dude, if it's like World War III or the supply chains break down, like cryptos ain't going to fucking save your ass, man. Like it's one of the crazy aspects of part of the people out there who are like, I'm prepping for a world collapse. Dude, you can't prep for what that would be. We spent like $10 trillion on drones and fully autonomous weaponized drones in the last 5 years, man. Like there's no, like, letting it collapse is the stupidest thing ever. You prevent a collapse, and right now the only thing standing in our way is us. And it's a fear of communication. Like personal relationships have been going through great turmoil through the energy and the alignments that we've seen in the last, since 2012 till now. Look at 1999, which was a big shift point in the world as we know it. And then you had your first crash. Then you had your 2008 9/11. Then your 2008 crash. Then you had your like 2011 Brexit shit. Then you had your 2012. And remember, that was like they've been forcing Y2K virus, Nibiru, all this shit coming down our throats forever. And so now we are here. So what are we going to do? What's going on, man? I love you. I still think working together is the best, greatest idea. And that we should be focusing on big problems. It goes back to this. Like, if there's one thing, as someone who tries not to, Katie Tur, going back to Cali for a light at the end of the tunnel on infrastructure. American Swamp. So, like, people keep focusing on, she's cute, by the way. Can I say that? Do y'all think the next big Federal Reserve quantitative easing event will buy us the infrastructure of our dreams? Mixed signals on the models. What? Where am I at? So here you go. Elon Musk last night, which means a small corner of Texas or anywhere with solar panels could power the entire United States. And Elon and I are on the same train here. We're saying that like there are literally inhibitors to better technologies coming to us. Tony Bruno, who works for ULA, United Launch Association, that would be far more effective in orbit where the energy density is an order of magnitude greater. Yeah, there's a lot you can do in space, man. No, there's no excessive goodness. You cannot go too far in the right direction. C.S. Lewis. But this one thing about all the shit, like with everybody talking about politics, is that, dude, I've been sick of the Clintons for a long time. Like, we've literally been talking about the Clintons since the night, like, for 30 years. Like, we've just been talking about, like, the Clintons nonstop. And even Trump, like, they've been around for 30 years, man. Like, it's a tired record. It's a tired story. So, like, it's like I tell people, I just don't ever want to hear about Hillary fucking Clinton again. But everybody's always talking about, you know, like, we talk about, like, Hillary Clinton, like, and it's like, man, people are like, it's like, the internet's been telling us, like, Hillary Clinton is the head of the deep state oil and war assassination cartel. She was melded with machine learning in 2013 and is unstoppable like Genghis Khan, Hannibal Lecter, and Dick Cheney combined into the ultimate strategeriest ever. She's also the Illuminati capstone. LOL, just kidding. Because it's fucking ridiculous, man. Like, we got real fucking problems that we're dealing with daily, and we have major legacy problems that are ahead of us. All the countries are fighting. You got Hong Kong, China, us, China, India, Pakistan. Like, everybody's losing their freaking minds, and it is a good time for all the good people to stand up and the cooler heads to win out here. If there is one thing I think our president totally fucking sucks at, I'm saying, is that he calls people names ridiculously for no reason. Sometimes over the pettiest shit. That don't ever help. So he's bad at, like, calling people names. That don't help, man. Sometimes when I'm weak, I do it, but I try to keep it to a minimum. So the whole name calling, it's not a good dude. Strategyrist. Anywho, yeah, I don't know if hopefully if I can get a contribution or two. So I can smoke cigarettes. If not, this video will get crazier, which could be kind of entertaining. Anyway, I laid my heart out there on the line. There's a lot to talk about for those who are listening. I know a lot of really cool, a lot of really smart, and some powerful people. Astro Fight Club watch. So, yeah, man, like the whole, anybody could get rich off of, like, I got rich off crypto. Like, that, like, money won't solve problems anymore. Although in my situation, I'll buy cigarettes, but I'm saying on a bigger grand scale, we have to take steps forward. And but here you go. Back in May, there was a glimmer of hope for a big infrastructure deal. Dems and Trump agreed on a $2 trillion deal. Then 3 weeks later, Trump pulled out, citing investigations into obstruction of justice and Pelosi accusing him of participating in a cover-up. That $2 trillion deal would have sucked anyways, because anything that is just Band-Aids isn't going to help much. We need a bigger overall plan. Crap, I had a great point, and I forgot it. All heated stuff. Yeah. Nerd twerk. We need more dancing and partying. Man, be excellent to each other. Preparing for fall. Like, be excellent to each other. And party on. Crap. Okay, I tried to remember my point, couldn't remember it. But anyway, we can do better, man. Everybody fighting all the time. That's no party at all. This is my 2 cents. Love you guys. Stay cool. Peace out. God bless everyone. May the force be with you always. And let us live long and prosper together.